Have you ever had that gut-wrenching moment when someone looks you straight in the eyes, swears they're telling you the truth, and yet, deep inside, something just feels off? Your mind screams, something isn't right, but your heart desperately wants to believe them. That split second, where trust hangs in the balance, can change the entire direction of a relationship, and the question that echoes in our head is, are they lying, or are they telling the truth? So the real question isn't just, are they lying or telling the truth? The deeper question is, do I trust myself enough to see what's right in front of me? Because the signs are always there. The words, the actions, the consistency, the way they treat others, all of it adds up. If you pay attention, the truth doesn't just reveal itself, it shouts. And when you learn to trust that, you'll stop being afraid of whether someone is lying, and start being confident in your ability to recognize the truth. Think about how easy it is for someone to say the right words in the right moment. Words flow easily, they cost nothing, and they can be rehearsed, polished, and delivered like a perfect script. Someone can say, I love you, I'll never hurt you, or you can trust me, with such conviction that you almost feel guilty for doubting them. But here's the catch, words alone don't make someone trustworthy. Words are like smoke. They can fill the air, look impressive, and even cloud your vision, but they vanish as soon as you try to grab hold of them. Actions, on the other hand, are heavy. They leave a trail. They can't be faked for long without cracks showing. Have you ever noticed how someone can promise you the world when everything is easy, but when life gets hard, when you actually need them, their actions tell a completely different story? That's because actions cost energy, time, and effort. You can't say your way into showing up when someone is sick. You can't promise your way into keeping commitments. You can't talk your way into making someone feel secure and safe. Those things require consistent follow-through, and that's where the truth starts to separate itself from lies. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone says, I'll call you later. Now, in that moment, you hear the words, and part of you might want to believe them. But the truth isn't in what they just said, it's in what happens next. Do they actually pick up the phone? Do they make time for you like they said they would? If they don't, then the words become empty. And the more often that pattern repeats, the more you realize the person's words were never meant to reflect reality. They were meant to pacify you in the moment. On the flip side, when someone's actions line up with their words, you feel it. If they say, I'll be there for you, and then they actually show up, maybe even without you asking, that's when trust builds. That's when you realize, okay, this person doesn't just talk about caring, they live it. That's a person you can believe. Because honesty isn't just about what comes out of someone's mouth. It's about what they're willing to do, especially when doing it isn't easy or convenient. So, if you're ever stuck wondering whether someone is lying or telling the truth, stop listening only to what they're saying. Start watching what they're doing. Words might get your attention, but actions will tell you everything you need to know. We live in a world where we're taught to rationalize everything. We're told to look for proof, to collect evidence, to wait until we have something concrete before we make a judgment. And because of that, we often silence the most powerful tool we already have, our intuition. That quiet voice inside that nudges us, that subtle tightening in our chest, that sense of unease when someone's words don't quite match the energy they're giving off. The problem is, we've been trained to doubt it. We tell ourselves, maybe I'm overthinking, maybe I'm being paranoid, maybe I should give them the benefit of the doubt. And in the process, we ignore the very signal that's trying to protect us. Think about a time when you looked back at a situation and thought, I knew it. Maybe it was a partner who swore they were just busy, but something about the tone of their voice or the way they avoided eye contact made your stomach twist. At the time, you brushed it off because you didn't want to seem insecure. But later, when the truth came out, you remembered how your gut had tried to warn you. That wasn't paranoia. That was your intuition, and it was right. Intuition is like an internal lie detector, but it doesn't come with flashing lights or alarms. It works quietly, through feelings, hunches, and subtle observations your conscious mind hasn't yet pieced together. Maybe the timing of their story doesn't quite add up. Maybe their smile feels forced. Maybe they tell you something that sounds fine on the surface, but their body language betrays them. Your intuition picks up on those tiny inconsistencies long before your logic has a chance to explain them away. The truth is, your intuition isn't some mystical sixth sense. It's your brain processing thousands of micro signals, tone, expression, pauses, inconsistencies, all at once. It's like your subconscious is a supercomputer analyzing patterns you're not even aware of. And when that gut feeling kicks in, it's not random, it's data, it's evidence, but because it doesn't come in a neat, logical package, we dismiss it. The people who get burned the most by lies aren't the ones who never saw the signs. They're the ones who saw them, felt them, and then convinced themselves to ignore them. They silenced their intuition because it didn't sound rational. And yet, if you learn to trust it, you'll realize it rarely steers you wrong. One of the most powerful indicators of truth is consistency. A genuine story doesn't need editing, rehearsing, or constant maintenance. It simply flows the same every time it's told because it's anchored in reality. But when someone is lying, their version of events often shifts, even if only slightly. They may forget the details they invented. They may adjust their explanation to fit new questions, or they may stumble when they're caught off guard. This is why consistency matters so much. The truth doesn't change, but lies almost always do. Think about how natural it feels to recall something that really happened to you. If you're telling someone about a trip you took, you don't need to rehearse. The memories are vivid, and the story comes out the same way every time, even if you add little details. Now compare that to someone making up a story. At first, they may deliver it with confidence, but the next time they tell it, something is slightly different. The place, the timing, the emotion. They might not even notice they've changed the details, but you do, and that inconsistency creates doubt. When it comes to relationships, consistency is everything. A person who means what they say doesn't just say it once and then hope you forget. They repeat it through their actions and through the steadiness of their behavior. If someone tells you they care about you, it won't be a one-off statement meant to soothe you in the moment. You'll see that care consistently, in small gestures, in follow-through, and in the way their words and actions align over time. On the other hand, a liar may try to keep up the act, but sustaining a falsehood is exhausting. They might remember the big parts of the lie, but they slip on the small ones. They might insist on their version of events when you first ask, but if you circle back later with the same question, you'll notice subtle changes. And here's the thing, you don't need to catch them in a dramatic contradiction for the inconsistency to matter. Even tiny shifts are enough to raise red flags. If you have to keep mental notes of their story just to keep track, chances are you're dealing with something other than the truth. The beauty of consistency is that it doesn't demand perfection, it demands authenticity. A truthful person won't always have polished answers, but their story, their behavior, and their character line up in ways that feel steady. When you're watching closely, you realize that it's not the loud declarations that prove honesty, but the quiet, repeated consistency that shows you what's real. One of the clearest ways to figure out if someone is truly honest is by watching how they treat other people. Because here's the truth, lying isn't something people only do in one part of their life. It's not a switch they turn on with you and turn off with everyone else. If someone is comfortable lying about small things to people they barely know, then lying in bigger, more meaningful moments is only a matter of convenience. Integrity doesn't show up when the stakes are high. It reveals itself in the everyday choices we make when no one is keeping score. Think about it, you're out at a restaurant and the person you're with exaggerates a story to impress the server, or they casually bend the truth about how long they've been waiting for their food just to get a discount. It seems harmless on the surface, but what does it actually tell you? It shows you that honesty is not a standard for them, it's negotiable. And if honesty is negotiable, then why would it suddenly become sacred when the subject is your relationship, your trust, or your heart? On the flip side, notice the people who stay truthful when it would be easier not to. The friend who admits, "I messed up, I forgot to call you," instead of inventing an excuse. The partner who says, "I can't promise that right now, but I'll try," rather than feeding you lines they don't intend to follow through on. These may not be the flashiest answers, but they're real, and that's the kind of honesty you can rely on, because it's rooted in character, not circumstance. The way someone treats others is like a window into how they will treat you. If they lie to their boss to get out of trouble, they'll lie to you when the truth feels inconvenient. If they manipulate their friends with half-truths to make themselves look better, they'll do the same in your conversations when it benefits them. What you're witnessing in those moments isn't just behavior, it's a pattern. And patterns always repeat themselves. It's easy to be fooled when someone directs their charm and attention straight at you. You want to believe you're the exception, that the kindness, the honesty, the loyalty they show is reserved just for you. But people don't magically transform their values depending on who's in front of them. Their integrity, or lack of it, is visible in every interaction they have. All you have to do is watch closely enough to see it. When it comes down to it, the real challenge isn't simply figuring out if someone else is lying or telling the truth. The deeper challenge is learning to trust ourselves enough to recognize what's right in front of us. We already have the tools. We see the actions that don't match the words. We feel the tension in our gut when something isn't adding up. We notice the inconsistencies that appear when a story doesn't stay steady. And we observe how people treat others when they think no one is paying attention. The truth is never really hidden. It's often just ignored because it's inconvenient to accept. The danger of ignoring these signs is that we end up investing in people who don't deserve the trust we give them. We rationalize, we make excuses, and we allow words to drown out the evidence of actions. And yet, every time we do this, we pay a price. Whether it's in wasted time, broken trust, or a heart that feels heavier than it should. The irony is that while we fear the pain of facing the truth, the pain of believing a lie is always far worse. One strips away an illusion quickly, the other erodes us slowly from the inside out. But here's the empowering part. Once you decide to value yourself enough to stop ignoring the evidence, everything changes. You stop clinging to words that sound sweet but mean nothing. You stop silencing your intuition out of fear of seeming insecure. You stop giving endless chances to stories that keep shifting, and you start recognizing integrity as a non-negotiable, something that shows up consistently and everywhere in a person's life. This doesn't make you cynical, it makes you clear. It frees you to build connections on solid ground instead of fragile illusions. So the next time you're left asking, are they lying or telling the truth? Don't just wait for a confession or a slip-up. Look at the whole picture, their actions, your intuition, the consistency of their story, and the way they treat others. Trust yourself to see what's there, not just what you wish were there, because the truth is always speaking. The real question is whether you're willing to listen. And when you do, you'll realize the greatest power isn't in catching someone else's lie. It's in trusting your ability to know the truth. Thank you so much for giving me your time and attention today. I know you could have been anywhere else, listening to anything else, but you chose to be here, and that means more than you realize. My hope is that these words didn't just give you information, but also gave you clarity, confidence, and maybe even the courage to trust yourself a little more deeply. If something in this message resonated with you, don't just let it fade when these ends. Carry it with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and most importantly, start applying it in your own life, because the real transformation doesn't come from listening, it comes from living what you've learned. I want to thank you once again for being part of this journey with me. Your presence, your willingness to reflect, and your openness to growth are what make moments like this powerful. You're not just here to learn how to spot the truth in others. You're here to step into the truth of your own strength. So, until next time, take care of yourself, trust your instincts, and remember, you already have everything you need to recognize the truth when you see it. Goodbye and thank you.